Good evening, everyone. Though we are just 7 members in class, expecting that others would join us pretty soon. This is to say good evening to everyone. Happy New Year to those that we haven't greeted. Happy New Year. The year is still fresh, so welcome. I would be your host for this evening's session. My name is Adeshola Aladeshawe. So as is our usual practice, when we come in, please put your names in the chat box. Tell us where you are reaching us from and the party you represent in the Electoral College. Also, please kindly be reminded to place your name as you would want it reflected on your certificate at the end of this course. All right. Okay, apologies for earlier. So I was saying a big welcome to everyone. Tonight or this evening, we have a special facilitator. We will be discussing the challenges of young people in politics 1021. This is the 10th cohort, and I believe this topic is timely, knowing fully well that we are in the heat of the general elections, which is about 45 or less days away. And we are hopeful. And so it's important that we are touching on some of the challenges that young people like you and I are facing in terms of politics and governance. This evening, we will be having a facilitator. She's no new face. Some of us know her, some of us follow her on Twitter. Okay. But I will take some time to read out her profile. But before I do that, let's just reiterate the rules. Okay, let's reiterate some of the rules. When you come in, please place your name in the chat box as you would want it reflected in the chat box. And before I go ahead, let's just say big congratulations to every political party that participated in the just concluded senatorial elections. Congratulations to the NNPP for winning the elections. And a big congratulations also to the other parties who put up a pretty good fight. I'm sure that this has been a learning call for each and every one of us. We will continue to learn and put up a good front politically, even as we keep learning. All right. So back to the rules. Place your name in the chat box. We will be taking the session at a go. If you have questions, comments, observations, and inputs, please ensure that they are. Maxwell, you have a question. Please place it in the chat box. Thank you. Please place your question in the chat box. It will be taking. Okay. So as I was saying, questions, observations, comments during the facilitation of our guest will be taken at the end of the session. You can place the questions in the chat box, or after that, we can then indicate, or we can indicate by show of hands, and we will take your questions one after the other. This class should not exceed an hour, 30 minutes. So without further ado, I would kindly introduce our facilitator for this evening. Facilitator who will be handling challenges of young people in politics is a young politician. She is a communications specialist and a government relations professional. She's an advocate for gender equity and youth inclusion in governance, who works at the intersection of politics and civil society to promote enhanced representation for marginalized groups in decision-making structures. Pardon me, please. She was the special assistant on media to the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara. She also served on the Board of Trustees of the governing All Progressives Congress, APC, from 2014 down to 2018. In 2022, she contested for the position of the National Youth Leader at the APC's National Convention, the first woman since the formation of that party to do so. She is a UN Women Intergenerational Mentee, that is, one of the 25 young Nigerian women chosen to carry on advocacy regarding meeting goals outlined in the Beijing Platform for Action. She also once served on the advisory board of the World Youth Movement for Democracy. She runs the Derinsola Abiola Foundation, a nonprofit organization domiciled in Abeokuta, her hometown. And it's established with the aim of carrying out social development programs. All right. With a warm, hearty, virtual round of applause, let's make welcome our facilitator this evening, Derinsola Abiola, who will be taking us on the challenges of young people in politics. You're welcome, ma'am. We are so glad to have you. Okay. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to be here, as always. And well done, as always, for the great efforts in ensuring that young people are politically aware. I'm saying a number of names that I know, so I'm very happy to be here today. So the topic, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your warm welcome messages. So the topic, as previously stated, is the challenges of young people in politics. I'm going to go through the presentation. It's in no way exhaustive, but I believe it gives us a pretty good idea of the general ideas that people tend to face when it comes to political participation. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Sorry, hold on. Okay.
All right. So how do we define politics? A classic definition would be that it's about who gets what, when, and how. It refers to the actions or activities concerned with achieving and using power in a country or society. It's an organized process of peacefully settling contestations on how resources are harnessed and deployed, as well as how society itself is structured, run, and maintained. This definition really just goes to show that politics determines pretty much everything in any society, right from how you're governed to the price of food in the market. And again, it underscores the importance of political participation, especially for those of us who are young. Next slide, please. Politics and representation. As I said, the definition that was given earlier underscores the importance of representation and inclusion, and to preserve the legitimacy of the process among all or the majority of the members of any given society, and to meet the goal of satisfactorily addressing social concerns in a peaceful and organized way, then constituent groups must be adequately represented and afforded equal opportunities to aspire for power and advocate for issues important to them. Next slide, please. And now the very big question, who is a youth? According to the Commonwealth, youths are persons aged between 15 and 29. But you see, this definition differs among countries because, the socioeconomic factors, cultural considerations, they tend to result in the term youth being defined differently across societies. In Nigeria, youths are people within the 18 to 35 age bracket, and within political circles, those of us who are members of parties can attest very well to the fact that when it comes to political parties, youth generally just refers to people who are relatively young, and sometimes it might be closer to 50 than 35. Next slide, please. Looking at our youthful population, young people account for close to 70% of our estimated 200 million population. Nigeria's median age is 18, the age upon which citizens qualify to exercise their franchise. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So despite the fact that young people account for an overwhelming majority of our population, we're not very well represented in Nigeria's politics. It's a situation that leaves us with less than desired sway over the country's leadership direction and a cause of frustration for many. Recently, in 2018, young people scored a landmark legislation with the Not Too Young to Run Act when it was signed into law. And what that did was that it lowered the age of eligibility for elective office. Prior to that, young people were forced to watch from the sidelines as decisions were made on our behalf with no legal pathway to aspire to and claim power for ourselves. Next slide, please. Some of the challenges hindering adequate youth representation and dominance in politics range from economic to cultural. I think we can all attest to the fact that politics is very expensive, it's very capital intensive in every country of the world, really, not just Nigeria. And in a country like ours where, as I mentioned earlier, in some countries, the youth age ends at 25. In Nigeria, officially, it should end at 35, even though I believe the national youth policy has now been reviewed. But generally, for as long as you're under 40, even if you're like a couple years above 40, it's still very possible that people will refer to you as a youth. And that's one of the issues, again, that young people in politics are dealing with. The inability to clearly delineate that age bracket. You find people who are well beyond the age bracket taking up youth spaces, and it leaves a lot of young people really not knowing where they belong and what it is that they're supposed to do. We'll still come to that. And then the issue of financial disempowerment. Again, in some countries, once you turn 18 or, once you're around that age, even from high school, it's not unusual to find people living by themselves, earning a living. They have jobs, they can access jobs, they can live alone, they can start families from as young as 18, 19. But here, that's not really the case. And you'll find that if you're participating in politics, especially for those who have run for office, whether it's within the party or at the general elections, or you've participated in primaries, we can all attest to how expensive it is to participate in that process. And this is a political system where our people are not really used to the idea of crowdfunding political campaigns. And even if you were to crowdfund, your network would determine to a really large extent how much it is that you're able to raise. So the issue of finance is one that really hinders a lot of young people from participating as actively as they would like, or at the levels that they would like. And then it's related to the second point, which is a cost-intensive political process. If you're going to buy a nomination form, it costs a lot of money in the major political parties. Yes, the APC offered discounts to young people in the last elections. If you're below 35, I believe you would pay just half of the cost of the expression of interest forms. But even at that, say there's a form going for 10 million. If you still have to cough out 5 million, it's not very easy to do for a lot of young people. And parties are becoming more responsive to our demands. They're becoming a lot more responsive. But at the same time, that financial challenge is still there. And I believe a key way to tackle this would be actually to develop that culture of crowdfunding in our politics. Let people come together to support those that they believe in, because we can't really tell political parties this is how much you have to charge for your forms. They're going to charge based on how strong and formidable their parties are. But we also need to come up with systems to support each other so that young people are able to get through these processes and participate meaningfully. And then the issue of internal democracy in the case of organized political parties, we're not at the point where we have independent candidacy yet. And even if we did, that would come with a number of restrictions that would still get in the way for quite a number of people. So in many political parties, there's the issue of candidates being imposed, primaries not being allowed to hold, free and fair primaries never, ever really taking place. There's a lack of internal democracy, even in the smaller political parties. And I don't mean to denigrate any political party, but recently when they had their presidential primaries, there were allegations and counter allegations all over social media about people who paid some people who compromise party leaders. So it's everywhere. It rings everywhere. So there are issues with internal democracy across political parties that tend to stifle the growth of young people within those systems. Ageism and other cultural bias. Depending on where in the country you're from, we seem to place a lot of premium on age. And Nigerians generally believe unless you're really old enough that you don't really know what you're saying, or you don't have the experience needed, for the position that you're aiming for. So as young people, there are quite a number of ways to manage this as well. And I believe when we get to the part where we discuss solutions, we'll be talking about this as well. Then widespread disaffection and non-participation in politics. It's not unusual for young people to insult other young people who are participating in the democratic process. When I first joined politics, there was a lot of name calling. Even now, I still deal with it, especially because of the party I'm in, especially because of those who maybe don't like my candidate or don't like my party. They tend to have some really tough words for me on social media, but I don't really care. So there's that disaffection amongst young people generally. There's a level of disinterest in politics. They don't really see politics as something that concerns them. They don't consider it as a priority. And it seems like those who are joining are not the majority. And I really hope this is something that can change. And then non-participation. So for those who are apathetic, they just don't want to participate at all. And I'm really hoping this is something that can change. And the work that organizations like the Electoral College do regarding political literacy actually does contribute to turning the tide when it comes to apathy among young people. Now, on addressing the challenges, I mentioned earlier that we might want to look into crowdfunding and, come up with messages that make Nigerians more responsive to the idea of crowdfunding, contributing their funds to political campaigns. It's how it's done in other countries. Nobody really expects a Biden or a Clinton or an Obama, for instance, to fund their campaign entirely with their own money. Even Donald Trump, as wealthy as he was, did not fund his campaign with his private funds. Okay, people are supposed to rally around candidates that they believe in. And I think we need to work on getting our democracy to that point where people really do chip in, they put their money where their mouth is, and they're willing to support people, especially young people and women who are really just, making their way through the political system. Campaign finance regulations. We have, as part of the Electoral Act, limits on how much can be spent on political campaigns. But when it comes to enforcement, enforcement has been really lax. If we're able to enforce these laws on campaign financing, it might help to even out the playing field somewhat, especially for young people and women who are at a financial disadvantage. Promotion of internal party democracy, that's very key. Things have improved considerably across political parties in some states. And in a lot of the cases, it really just boils down to who is in charge in a particular state or at a particular time. But I'm actually really happy, for instance, in my party, when we had the presidential primaries, it was clear an actual vote took place. And I think that's what we need to imbibe, at every step of the political process. Let the delegates choose, and if it's consensus that you're going with, because consensus is a valid mode of choosing candidates as well, then let the process be clear to everyone exactly how it is that decision is going to be arrived at. Facilitating political interest and participation amongst young people. As I said earlier, organizations like Electoral College are the forefront of ensuring that young people are more politically aware, more politically literate. It's worthy of commendation. And then we need all hands on deck, and we also need to do what we can to reach young people who maybe don't even have access to social media, or other young people who do have access but don't really care. So we just need to keep coming up with innovative ways that will attract, the attention of young people and make them more interested in politics. And I think those of us who are also within the political system who happen to be young also have to do our quota to enlighten others on the political process. A lot of people are really quite afraid of being politically active. I do what I can within the spaces that I have access to address that. But I think we also should, once you're done with this program, I beg that you become an ambassador for political literacy and speak to other young people, encourage them to enroll for programs of this sort. Then cultural reforms and elimination of bias against young people. There's a lot of work that needs to be done regarding reorientation when it comes to seeing young people as capable and able to meet the requirements of public office. And then of course, as young people, we also should be mindful of how we interact with people, the whole branding thing. Be careful to project the positive sides of political engagement, both for other young people who might be interested in politics. And then, of course, when it comes to interacting with people, especially at the grassroots, you should be aware of the social norms where you're from. If you want to go talk to elders, for instance, where you're from, you should know the kind of gifts you should present, how to present yourself, how to dress, what to say to them, and how to say it. In my place, we have a thing about not speaking in proverbs or adages in front of elders. We do it, but when you do, you have to apologize for doing so. So, just social norms and social cues like that are things that you should be aware of, so that when you're engaging them, it doesn't become a matter of, oh, this person is so young, they have no experience, they don't know what they're doing, they have no idea about our cultural norms. So even as a person, knowing that you're young, already knowing that challenge will be there, that bias is there, you have to do everything within your power to make sure that when you do engage the leaders in these spaces, you say the right thing and you present yourself the right way and you handle things the right way. Maturity counts. How you address them, it matters. And just do as much as you can. My people say that what that means is that a young person who knows how to wash their hands will eat with elders. So you can think about what that means, the weight of that statement, the import of that adage. Just goes to show that it's not impossible for young people to have their own seat at the table, but how we manage relationships, how we carry ourselves, how we act when we're given opportunities, it determines a lot. Having access into a room is difficult, but staying in that room is even more difficult. So as young people, we have to be very mindful of the burden that we carry and the responsibility of trying to ensure that when we get into these spaces, we don't act in such a way that the door will be closed to others who are coming after us. So that's what I have on the presentation, and I think the rest of this will be in a discussion format. If you have questions, your questions will lead me to the kind of answers that I will give from this point on. Thank you very much.
Wow. Okay. I was actually looking forward to continuing listening, actually. I didn't want that to end. it felt like a wealth of knowledge that you still had to dish out to us, but it's okay. We have gleaned so much from the little succinct that we have heard from you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now we move on to the questions. All right, so first things, do we have questions? Please let's indicate by raising up our hands. Okay, I see an Olaide Olawuwo, and there's a question in the chat box. Okay, let me ask Olaide to unmute himself.
Yeah, hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you, Rinsola, for the insights. And I think it's a privilege to listen to you from experience and participation, and then want to appreciate the post step as one of the brightest youth in the country, helping to shaping the conversation. Yeah, I think my question will be, because of course, I could see that youth were disadvantaged because quite a lot of things are monetized. But one, how do you manage post-primary participation, a lot of expectation for you, and then sometimes the conversation you've had with colleagues, friends, and from different states, and you're expecting that result will turn out. Now, how do you manage the post-election disappointment in terms of results that doesn't turn out based on mobilization and other stuff? Then two, how are we going to handle the monetization and then the highest bidder carries the day? So that, of course, we have to have this conversation and share knowledge to see how we can position ourselves against 2027. Thank you.
Okay, thank
So
you.
do
you want us to take more? Or?
I think I'll take more, so I can just
Okay, Akolo, Habila.
Yes, good evening, Ma, and thank you for your time.
We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Yes. So when you talked about
Habila, you were muted. Please unmute yourself again. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I say thank you for your time and a wonderful presentation there, Ma. You talked about the idea that, of course, the wise saying that the child that washes his hand is able to eat with elders. That tends to project the idea that we need to work with them to be able to find a place. The one problem I have with that is the fact that we're trying to basically change the bad governance. So I think participation is in the context of also the bad governance that we have experienced. And what appears roughly is that most young people get into this and you get so soaked in bad dealings that you become so compromised that you are incapable of representing good governance that young people are really looking to bring. So what do you think about the alternative of like ganging up? Putting our heads together. You talked about the fact that we are 70%. So a situation where we're able to work out our own system and actually, rather than get a cut of the cake.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at this approach. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Habila. Okay, we have one more question, one more hands raised. So let me see whether we can take that. Abdul Hafiz Abdul Salam.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Rinsola. It's a privilege to have a live conversation with you like this. So, my question goes that for someone very young, for someone like me, for example, I'm in my very early 20s. So how is it very easy for someone like me to go into politics without having, like, my father is nobody, and without having a godfather? Because I could vividly remember last year I went, before the APC primaries election, I went to our ward to meet our chairman that, okay, I want to be part of this party, I want to be active. And he said, the first question I was asked by someone there was that, Who are you from? Who sent you to us? So all these kind of things are things that youth generally or young people generally are always afraid of, not to even go into politics at all. So how do we tackle these kind of challenges in Nigeria? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So those are all the questions we have.
There's some
live questions
in the chat box as well.
Yeah, there's some questions in the chat box. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
Two questions there.
Okay. Abdul Hafiz's question is in the chat box too. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll start with the ones who spoke, and then I'll take the ones in the chat box as well. So Olaide asked, how do you manage post-primary expectations? How do you manage post-election disappointments? And how do you handle the monetization and high bidder syndrome in our politics? Post-primary expectations. So I'll be honest with you, the moment you indicate interest in vying for elective office, people are going to bill you at the slightest opportunity. When you invite people over, they will expect money for transportation. When you visit them, they will expect money for hosting you. When you say hello and they respond, they will expect money for responding. When they have babies, they will expect you to give them money for the christening. It never ends. So the advice that I give people generally is to be very firm. If you have your income, have maybe a percentage that you're willing to spend on all of those demands. And be very firm, be very clear with yourself. It starts from making that decision and being very firm with yourself that you will not go beyond that limit. Because no matter how much you spend, no matter how much you do, no matter how many people you respond to, it's not necessarily going to make it easier for you to maybe get a ticket if you didn't before, or for you to get an appointment if you didn't before. And it's also very strategic. It's also very key that you're strategic with your spending. For every 1,000 naira spent, it's very key that you're able to point to the value of what it is that you're spending on. And you have to be very careful, because for a lot of people, there are people who perhaps do nothing outside of politics. I say this at the risk of sounding somehow, but there are people who really don't do anything outside of politics, especially at certain levels. And that's all they thrive on. So there are people who don't deal with young politicians, or any kind of politician for that matter, based on honesty. If you go to them and say, oh, I need your advice regarding this, they will only tell you what you want to hear with hopes of extorting you because you're looking for something. So 1, you have to be wise. 2, you have to be discerning. And 3, you have to be firm, and you have to be strategic with your spending. Don't let anyone put you under undue pressure, because you could spend all you have, sell all you have to, take care of these demands and still not get anything at the end of the day. So you have to be very careful with how you spend. And minus just spending, it's not just about money. You also have to build valuable relationships. Because when it boils down to it, when when decisions are being made, the people in the room will think about people that they have relationships with. And so you have to be very particular about building relationships and not just, throwing money at people. So you have to be very careful, so people don't see you as a cash cow. There are lots of people within the political system who have honor, who have integrity, who are honest, who will not extort you. But at the same time, there are people who will do all those things. So you have to be very careful with how you spend. Then also you could set up a system to verify. And I would also advise you, if you have like extra resources, also make sure that you invest directly in the people, because at the end of the day, I believe, the reason why I joined politics was because I believe, and I still do believe, that it remains the most effective vehicle for impacting the highest number of people. Policy making, if you get into a position where you can make policies and implement policies, it's very different from what you can do as a private citizen, even if you have an NGO. So I run a foundation as well, but I know that being able to influence government decisions and policies will make more impact on people than whatever it is I can do through my own personal contributions. So I'm going to advise you, it's very good, support your party. If maybe you have major projects, you want to get an office, maybe your party wants to open an office in your local government or your district, contribute to that. You want to host an event, contribute to that. Festive seasons come around, you have some extra money that you want to give, you can send bags of rice to your ward, to your local government, you can send them money. It's okay to spend in those periods, but be very careful of people who just come up to you and who bill you for the most ridiculous things. You don't have to respond to all those things, and you shouldn't feel sorry about it. You work for your money, so you don't have to respond to them all the time. Only do what it is that you can, when you can do it, when it's post-election disappointment. I've run for office and I've lost, so I know exactly what this feels like. On the day of my election, we went round. Even before results were collated, I knew we weren't going to win based on what I was saying. You know, the agents weren't there, they deserted, many of them compromised. So I know how it feels to just have this sinking feeling within you, and then you start thinking of all you spent, you start thinking of all the effort that you put in, all the consultations that you did, you know, everything you had to take care of, everything you left, you know, work, for instance. I had to leave work for 6 months to focus on my campaign. And I can tell you that the best way to handle post-election disappointment is to learn valuable lessons from that episode, from everything. You sit down, you do a postmortem with your people. Don't just say that, oh, because I've lost my election, I'm never going to contribute to my society again, or I'm never seeing these people again, or I don't need these people again. Oh, they're so terrible, they didn't vote for me. Don't do that. And if we look at our major people in politics, actually, President Buhari ran several times before he became president. We've had a lot of key people. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has lost, you know, his presidential bid quite a number of times, and he's still pressing ahead. So we have leaders who have lost elections, who lost in the past, who won at some other time, even though I believe APC is going to carry the day again this time around. But all I'm trying to say is that if an Atiku, who has been a vice president, who has been involved in politics for a long time, you know, did not decide to throw in the towel because he ran for president or he tried a couple times and he didn't get it, then really we're just starting out. We can't afford to let that defeat overpower us. If Buhari, you know, a General Buhari who had been head of state at a point, you know, ran for president 3 times and didn't get it, you know, and came in on the 4th try, like, then who are we really? How old are we? Who are we really to say, oh, I'm never doing this again because I lost once? So you just have to learn the lessons, sit down with your people during that period. And one thing that actually that losing did for me was it helped me identify those on my team who were actually sincere. Those on my team who genuinely cared, you know, apart from just what I could do for them or what they could get by being part of my campaign. So, you know, that also, there's something about defeat, right? You tend to know your people when you're at rock bottom, when you're at your lowest. So take the positives from that point, take the positives from that episode, and, you know, get back to the drawing board, draw up your strategy again, and know where you have pitfalls, where you're weak, where you're strong, where you need to improve on, what improve on, what skills you need to improve. I came away from my election understanding, you know, much better the challenges of the people in my constituency. And it was following that I formed my foundation. And we've been doing a lot of work regarding education, regarding women empowerment. And it stemmed from that experience that I gained when I was running for office. So you just have to take the lessons and take the positives and forge ahead. And then another thing is, we're not all going to be elected officials. Some of us are never going to, some people are never going to be elected no matter how many times they try. But they might actually find fulfillment in taking on appointed positions or even working from behind the scenes within their political parties and making things happen that way. But just one, again, also, you have to be very prayerful, you know, trust God to guide you and do everything that you can within the political system. Give it your all, be optimistic, try again. If at first you fail, try again. If maybe you aim for something that was too high, try and reevaluate, you know what it is that you have a good chance of clinching and work towards it. And if that still doesn't work, continue to support the party for as long as you're sure that maybe it wasn't anything malicious. It just didn't, it won't always favor you. It's not always going to favor us. And when it doesn't, we need to, you know, just forge ahead, learn our lessons and forge ahead. Then how to handle monetization and highest bidder candidate. See, I'm just going to be honest with you. Politics is expensive, okay? I said it earlier, it's expensive everywhere in the world. The only difference is that here, we don't really do much of crowdfunding. And you have to have a lot of money personally to pursue certain things. But what I would advise you first, before we come to how to handle monetization, firstly, build your network. Try to build a network. And in building the network, if you have people who really do genuinely believe that you're capable to handle the position that you're looking for, and they trust you to actually deliver, then they should be able to support you. So try to build a network so that, you know, in such a way that if maybe a serious political project comes up, you have people who can rally around you and offer support. So, try and work on that. And it doesn't really even have to be a lot of money. And the funny thing is, not even everyone within your network is going to help you with funds, but some of them are going to help you with contacting people who would be very instrumental to you getting whatever it is you're looking for, whether you're lobbying for a position or whether you're lobbying for an appointed position or you're trying to get your ticket at the primaries, and even when you don't get it, even when you don't succeed, you're still going to be there working on leaders within the party for you to make sure you get something meaningful. So build your network, seek the counsel of those who are elderly, elders, those who have gone before you, who have experienced the things that you're trying to get. It's very key that you have a strong network with you. And Habila asked, we need to work with elders to be able to find a place. So, okay. Habila's comment was in response to what I said earlier about the fact that we need to work with elders to be able to find a place. And I'll say this, youth inclusion for me is not about excluding elderly people. I think it's more about fairness, justice, and equity in representation. And it's the same for women. When I talk about women inclusion, for instance, I'm not saying men should never occupy positions. What I'm saying is women should be adequately represented. So having elderly people still within the political system and working with them does not prevent us from attaining our goals. Now, how about young people forming an alliance of their own, putting heads together? What I advise generally is that within the major political parties, if you've noticed, there are strong youth movements. And if you've noticed, especially since 2015, 2019, and now, this election cycle, there are quite a number of young people playing active roles in the campaigns of the respective political parties. In the PDP, they have relatively young spokespersons. In the APC as well, we have quite a lot of young people actually across the many committees within the party's presidential campaign council. And I'm sure other parties are doing the same. So what I would advise is, young people within major parties need to also form a critical mass. And on young people coming together to form systems of their own, I'm not saying it's not possible, it's doable, but we had the Youth Party in 2019, and to the best of my knowledge, they didn't win any seats. And it was a party made up entirely of young people, funded by young people, they had young candidates. They didn't win any seats. So it kind of goes beyond just banding together on the basis of age. We also have to be strategic, and we also have to look at how best it is that we can attain our goals. And then when it comes to, when you say that working with elderly people might make us compromise, I think at the end of the day, it's very key if you're joining politics that you remember why you're joining politics. And that is what will keep you, that's what will keep you focused, and that's what will keep you on the straight and narrow. If you encounter anything that goes against your principles, I doubt anyone is going to force you to participate in anything that you don't want to do or say anything that you don't want to say. So I think it's very key that you remain principled, stay true to your principles, irrespective of the party that you find yourself, because there is really no guarantee that even within a youth majority party, there will still not be issues or that everybody will be well behaved. And it's also that I mentioned earlier a lot of disinterest and apathy among young people. There's a general opinion of elderly politicians that, oh, they are steeped in corruption, they are terrible, they have nothing good to offer. That's actually not true at all for quite a number of them. And they want things to be good just the same way we do. They joined politics also because they wanted things to be better. We have leaders in my party. I'm a member of the APC, by the way, who started out, during the whole democracy activism. Dr. Kayode Fayemi just left Ekiti as governor. He was very active in the June 12 days. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is running now, was very active, in NADEFO, funding pro-democracy activists. These people did not join politics because they wanted the country to be bad. They fought to a standstill. They fought the military. Do you know how much courage it must have taken them at the time when they were young to actually stand and fight a military regime? It's not easy. It's not something easy to do. So I think it's very key that we remember also that, yes, the country may not really be where we want it. Things may not be happening as quickly as we would like it, but governance is very complex. And I say this as somebody who has experienced a bit of it. I know how it was. Look, when you're trying to get into office, the way it does you as a hot, they're not doing this right, they haven't built this, they haven't built that. It's when you get in that you begin to understand the complexity and the intricacies of actually running a government. So, you know, sometimes it's not really because they don't want to do things, it's because they have quite a number of constraints that they also have to work within. So back to young people banding together, sure, there's freedom of association. If they think they can build a strong structure, a formidable structure that will deliver their candidates, you know, have that ideological change, you know, permeating the grassroots, you know, get things done. Sure, let them go ahead and do it. If they think they can muster the resources to get it done, that's excellent. But then young people are not one homogeneous, indivisible body. There will always be young people in different political parties. But whatever parties want to recruit members on the basis of age, I believe they're within their rights to do so, even though I think that is discriminatory. And I think the enthusiasm of youth and the wisdom of age complement each other. And as I said earlier, it's not about kicking out the old people entirely. It's about working together and ensuring that we're all adequately represented in government. And you're more likely to be able to do that with an existing political party that has a formidable structure, as opposed to one that you're just trying to put together. Unless, of course, you're playing the long game. And even then, you will need to be very committed. Abdul Hafiz asked, for someone very young, how is it easy to go into politics? So I joined politics quite young myself. I was about 21. No, not 21. I think I was a bit older. If I recall correctly, so I'd always been involved in youth activism, youth issues, women issues. And at the time, this was in 2013, like mid-2013 thereabouts. This was when the legacy parties, ANPP, CPC, ACN, were talking about forming a mega opposition party. And that was the time that I got involved in the APC. And I joined the APC through the youth wing of the party. And it was from there that I transitioned to other things. From the youth wing, we formed the APC Young Women Forum. I later formed the Progressive Young Women. Now I'm with the Progressive Sisters Network. And as I've grown older, I'm still a youth, yes, but I don't really limit myself to youth spaces anymore. I do quite a lot of work in the women's spaces now as well. So I would say that, of course, based on your question, you know, coming from a background that's not political, not having a godfather, I would want to ask one, where are you from? Which state are you from? Where is it that you're trying to register? Or maybe if you're not from, if you don't live where you're from, where are you trying to register? So one, if it's a place that I know someone, through the organizers, I will try to reach you with someone who I think can mentor you and can get you involved in your state. And then, of course, again, it depends on the party you're trying to join, because if it's not my party, I may not be able to help you. So I want to know where you're from, because that would enable me to enable me advise you accordingly. But I will just tell you, don't be discouraged. And then I will encourage you, whatever skill you have. Okay, you're from Oyo State. Where in Oyo State and which party do you want to join, please? I know a lot of people in Oyo State, so you're in good company, as long as it's my party you want to come to. So what I will advise, for me, I am a media entrepreneur. Saki is APC, wonderful. Okay, not a problem. I'll sort you out. So for me, I'm a media entrepreneur. I write a lot. I speak occasionally when the opportunity comes up. And I would advise you to just try to find something that you can do and that you can do well, and use it to the benefit of the party, because that's one thing that's also going to help you grow within the party system. As I said earlier, it's not always about money. Sometimes it's just a skill that you have that you're able to use for the party's growth. Maybe if you said you're young, in your early 20s, if you're able to get other young people to support the party, that's something they will notice. And it starts from that ward level, from that local government, the district, it's just wherever you are, whatever you have, use it for the party at whatever level you're in, and hope that you'll get noticed by the right people. So I'll just, again, work on building relationships. That your work chairman, don't worry, you go back to him and he will accept you. And then generally, joining a party is actually not that tough. Like when we were doing the party registration, if you had, I don't know when exactly you went to see this person, but assuming it's a period when party registration is on, you can get a card. Unless there are issues and they have factions and they are hoarding cards, because that, again, politics is a bit crazy. It can get a bit crazy sometimes. So just once you're in, make sure you build relationships with the people that matter, because at the end of the day, it's going to be based on their recommendation. A lot of the time that opportunities will come, especially within the political party system. And again, remember to use the skills that you have for the benefit of the party. So now I'll be moving to the questions in the chat section. So, okay, so I've taken this one. What are the mistakes that I noticed among the youth in politics today? So generally, this is the question from Solomon. Generally, I try to not be hard on young people, especially consider the fact that I myself have made quite a number of mistakes, but you have to fail forward. You have to learn from your experiences, from your mistakes, and then get better. Take those lessons, be more strategic and forge ahead. But one thing I would say, I don't know, I wouldn't say mistake per se. I just feel like we need to work together, and quite a number of young people are doing that. We already understand the need to band it together. There's, power in numbers, speaking with one voice. It gets us noticed. It gets us key consideration in all the spaces that matter. And, we're actually we're doing quite a lot actually when it comes to cooperation amongst ourselves in the different political parties, at least the ones that I'm aware of. But the general advice I would give young people, especially those who are considering a political career or those just getting into politics, is don't let envy take root in your heart. It's going to distance you from a lot of people who actually could help you, who could actually be of help, who could be of support, who could help you grow in your own career. You see everyone as you're striving towards something, they're striving towards something too. The sky is wide enough for all the birds to fly. And again, I keep harping on it. You have to be very, very, work on building a very strong relationship with God. Pray a lot. God's guidance is very key, because at the end of the day, there's always a divine factor to everything. There are a lot of people who would try a certain thing, they may not succeed. Like, look at the number of people who vied for elections at the primaries, and look at the number of people who would eventually emerge as candidates. There are states where you have maybe 30 seats in the House of Assembly, and in each constituency, there were at least 7 candidates vying for that ticket. So that's always a divine factor. And another thing is, if you try something and it doesn't work, just have to have faith that it's not, the time for that to come for you yet, and that God has something better in store for you. So don't get bitter when things don't go your way. Don't be envious of other young people. I would say collaborate, don't compete. It's very key. Learn to collaborate instead of competing, and always try to find a lane for you. Pray for guidance, let God guide you, find your own lane, and just stay there and put in all the efforts that you can. And if you make mistakes, learn from those mistakes and forge ahead. You shouldn't let your mistakes put you down. Okay, if you make mistakes, just learn from those mistakes and forge ahead. How do we run politics without having to break bank or run bankrupt? As I said earlier, this is Olusegun's question. Just be very firm with how much you're willing to spend, how much you're not willing to spend. Don't borrow to fund politics. I beg you in the name of God, do not do it. There are quite a number of people who, once they lose elections, they slump. And a lot of it is because they know how much the amount of debt that they have to clear when they're done. So please don't borrow. You don't want to. Okay, usually people are broke after elections, whether they win or they don't. But you don't want to be so. You don't want to be in such bad shape that you've lost the election and you have nothing left to your name because you borrowed or you sold everything just to fund an election. So you have to be very careful. You have to be very prudent. You have to be very wise. Okay, so you will have to think of your family, think of yourself. Okay, this doesn't work out. Where do I go from here? So please don't leave yourself bare because you're trying to chase a political career. Minimizing the influence of money, I'll be honest with you, I don't see the way out. I don't like to be a pessimist, but I honestly don't see, because at the end of the day, right, it's not really politicians that offer money, it's people who make money a requirement before they do anything for them. And at the same time, also try to have people who genuinely believe in what you stand for. People like that, yes, you will still be required to spend, once or twice, but it's not going to be as transactional as it is with everybody else. Then, how can you be under political mentorship and also avoid godfatherism and its negative consequences? I think, again, as young people, we need to strive to understand something, right? If you're working in any sector, whether it's in banking, whether it's in academics, whether you're an entrepreneur in any field, people need mentors, right? And there are rooms that you will not be able to enter as a young person, that you need somebody who has access to those rooms and can speak up in those rooms for your sake. And so I don't know when you talk about mentorship and then you talk about godfatherism, as far as I'm concerned, when you have mentors, you have a network of people who can advocate for you, then I don't see the issues with that. Again, negative consequences, as I said earlier, if you think they are taking you to where you don't know, someone is trying to lead you down a path that you're not really sure of, you're within your rights to say, look, it's not this serious, I'm not doing this. So it's really up to you to remain true to your principles. And I think it's also very key that in identifying mentors and approaching people for mentorship, you go with people who share the same values as you, so you don't have to deal with these negative consequences that you speak of. But everybody needs a mentor, everybody needs support, everybody needs a network, everybody needs people who look out for them in places that they may not even have access to. It's very key. Is there any other question here? Okay, so this is a comment on young people joining politics because I think it's an avenue to make money. And I mentioned earlier on, the importance of knowing why you're joining politics. You have to know why you're joining and stay true to your reasons. If you're joining because you're not happy with the state of things, you want to change it, that's excellent. So you have to have principles that guide you and remain loyal to those principles and those who share them. What can I say about youth participation in politics with the challenge of social media use and misuse? I think everybody needs to be responsible with social media, and social media is not all negative. This program, for instance, a key part of having people who subscribe is because there's a lot of awareness on social media. So social media is not all negative. But what I do think we need to work on is being more tolerant of each other's opinions and being less hostile to young people who do not share political leanings. So social media has its positives and its negatives. I just think we all need to be more mindful regarding how we use it. And that boils down to, again, our personal principles and how we choose to navigate social media on a personal level. So my brother from, is it Shaki again, Abdul Hafiz, the one from Oyo State? I will be in touch with, I think it's Saki if I recall correctly. Please let me know what senatorial district that is in Oyo State. And I will send contact details for someone who I think can be of help to you via the facilitator. Very happy to do that.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so we have exhausted all the questions, and it has been a fantastic use of the past 15 minutes of Honorable Rinsola Abiola's time. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out time to share this with us. Very fantastic, inspiring nuggets shared, experience. There's something that experience does, and you brought that to bear for us. Definitely, we have taken a lot from all you shared, and the Electoral College really, really does thank you. Thank you so much. Please, 10th cohort, please send thank yous in the chat box to our facilitator. Thank you so much, ma'am, for having us. We really appreciate your presence. Okay. All right. And on this note, we have come to the end of our class. We hope to see you tomorrow. I'll hand over to Lisa now if you have any announcements for the students, for the members of the 10th cohort. Lisa. Hello, Lisa. Or Maureen? Okay. Okay, so hold on.
Okay, Lisa is not available.
Oh, she's not? Okay.
Yes. So thank you very much, 10th cohort. And
All right,
see you guys tomorrow. Please ensure you inform your members to be in class on time. Thank you very much. Okay, Lisa is back.
Okay, she's here.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I didn't have host function, so I couldn't unmute. Yeah, thank you all for joining, and congratulations to NMPP for winning the senatorial elections. Congratulations to Senator Dimkial. So right now I'll just be sharing your certificates. Shola, please can you give me host function so I could share screen? Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Sorry, just give me a minute. Okay, so congratulations on behalf of the Independent Electoral College, the INEC of Electoral College. This is presented to Dimka Titus Yilwama, Certificate of Return for Member of the Senate. Congratulations to you, Senator, and congratulations to the party as a whole. It was a tight one. You know, everyone brought their A game, but there's always a winner. So I hope we learned a lot from the exercise. And I hope that we'll do better for the next elections. I hope we've all gotten our A game ready also. Any way you felt might have costed you the elections, going forward, you can just make changes to that. So congratulations, Senator Dimka Titus Yilwama, and to the new Nigerian People's Party. And do you have anything to say? Maybe an acceptance speech, or does the chairman of the party, just in 2 minutes, you can just do that. Just indicate with the raise of your hand so you can be unmuted. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I really want to thank the Electoral College Nigeria for this opportunity of learning and participating practically in this way to really test what we are learning. It was not really easy, but we really thank God for everything. I want to thank the ED and the entire team of the ECN. Thank everyone. I'm really honored and humbled to have been elected on yesterday for this to serve as the Senator of Lagos Central. I am deeply grateful for the trust the electorates have placed on me, and I pledge to work tirelessly on your behalf. I really want to thank my party members who really worked around the clock to see that we emerged victorious. I also want to thank other members who showed us support in the election. I want to also acknowledge the other candidates who ran in this race. Their commitment to public service is highly recommended, and I look forward to working with them in the future. To the people of Lagos Central, I promise to listen to your concerns and work to address them. I will be a voice for all of you in the Senate and will fight for policies that will improve your lives. I think together we can make our state and Nigeria a better place for all of us. Thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. Thank you very much.
Okay, awesome. Congratulations once again. And our classes continue tomorrow. Yeah, our classes continue tomorrow, same time, 5 p.m. Let's all make it a date. All right, classes closed quite early today, so I guess we can utilize the rest of the evening. So this is good night and enjoy the rest of your day.